Welcome, traveler. Find yourself comfortable, perhaps wrapped in soft blankets, your breathing settling into a gentle rhythm. Tonight, we journey together to a world unlike any other, a world of rain and ruins, of cyclic storms and ancient mysteries, a world where the gods once lived and then chose to leave. This is the story of Rain World. Let us begin slowly, as all good stories should begin. Let us start with the rain itself. Imagine, if you will, a world perpetually caught between moments, not quite alive, not quite dead. A world where massive storms roll across the landscape with the regularity of a heartbeat, where the rain doesn't merely fall, it floods, it drowns, it reshapes everything in its path. These are not the gentle spring rains you might remember from childhood, pattering softly against window panes. These are monsoons of biblical proportion, waters that rise and consume entire regions, filling ancient corridors and forgotten halls until nothing remains above the surface except the highest peaks and the tallest structures. But between these floods, between these apocalyptic deluges, there is life. The creatures of this world have adapted to exist in the spaces between catastrophe. They have learned to read the signs, to feel in their bones when the next deluge approaches. The sky grows darker, heavier. The air becomes thick with moisture, and all living things begin their pilgrimage to higher ground, to shelters, to the safety of elevated spaces where the water cannot reach. This cycle defines everything. It is the metronome to which all life dances. Predator and prey alike must pause their eternal struggles when the rains come. Even the fiercest hunter must find sanctuary. Even the smallest creature understands this fundamental law of existence. Survive until the next cycle. Find shelter. Wait. Breathe. Live to see another day. The world itself is a testament to time's patient erosion. Everywhere you look, you see the bones of something greater. Massive structures of an impossible scale pierce the clouds. Superstructures that dwarf mountains, their purposes long forgotten, their creators long vanished. These aren't merely buildings. They are ecosystems unto themselves, vertical worlds containing entire biomes stacked one atop another. In the lower regions, where sunlight struggles to penetrate, bioluminescent organisms cast everything in an ethereal glow of blues and greens. Pools of water reflect this light, creating the illusion of walking through the sky itself. Higher up, the structures open to the elements, and hardy vegetation clings to every surface, transforming metal and concrete into hanging gardens. And higher still, where the air grows thin and cold, the ancient machinery continues its work, humming with a purpose that no living creature remembers. These structures were not built by any civilization you know. They were built by beings called the Ancients, a name given to them by the few creatures capable of such naming. The Ancients were a people who had solved almost every problem that existence could present. They had conquered disease, age, suffering itself. They had bent the laws of reality to their will, created artificial intelligences of godlike power, and transformed their world into a paradise of perfect order. And then, having achieved everything they had ever dreamed of achieving, they chose to disappear.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let us return to the rain, to the cycles, to the present moment in this ancient world. Because our story truly begins not with gods or philosophy, but with something much smaller, something soft and vulnerable, something trying desperately to survive. Meet the Slugcat. The Slugcat is, well, the name attempts to capture something that defies easy description. Imagine a creature with the body plan of a cat, 4 legs, a long tail for balance, eyes that see in the darkness, but softer somehow, rounder, with a face that seems almost childlike in its simplicity. Some say they see a slug in its movements, in the way it squeezes through tight spaces, in its peculiar grace. Others see only a creature doing its best in an impossibly harsh world. You are this creature, or perhaps more accurately, you guide this creature through its journey. And what a journey it is. The Slugcat is not a predator. It is not at the top of any food chain. In fact, it exists somewhere in the uncomfortable middle, too large to hide from everything, too small to fight most things. It can eat, yes, it must eat, but it can also be eaten. This fundamental vulnerability shapes every decision, every moment of its existence. Watch as it moves through the ruins. See how it pauses at every corner, listening. How it hugs the shadows, making itself small. How it learns through painful trial and error which creatures can be befriended and which must be avoided at all costs. The Slugcat carries only what it can hold in its small hands, perhaps a spear fashioned from scavenged materials, perhaps a piece of fruit saved for the long journey ahead, perhaps a small stone kept for throwing, for distraction, for that crucial moment when the difference between life and death is a moment's diversion. The Slugcat does not speak, at least not in any language we would recognize. Yet through its journey, it tells us everything we need to know about this world. It shows us the beauty in the smallest moments, the way light filters through the rain, creating rainbows in the mist, the peaceful intervals when predators are far away and there is time, just for a moment, to sit and grieve and watch the world go by. There is something deeply, profoundly peaceful about observing this creature in its quiet moments, watching it groom itself in a shelter, safe from the rain, seeing it curl up to sleep, its breathing slowing, its small body finally relaxing after the dangers of the cycle. These moments of rest are earned, precious, beautiful in their simplicity. The Slugcat's journey takes it through multiple regions, each with its own character, its own dangers, its own melancholy beauty. There are the outskirts, the borderlands where nature has almost reclaimed the ancient structures, where grass grows thick and the sky is sometimes visible overhead. There are the industrial complex regions, all pipes and machinery, where the sounds of still functioning equipment echo through empty halls. There are the memory crypts, silent as tombs, filled with pearls that contain the recorded thoughts of the long-departed ancients. And everywhere, always, there is the sense of being very small in a very large world, of being a temporary visitor in a place that was never designed for you. The Slugcat was born long after the ancients vanished, long after their civilization reached its zenith and chose transcendence. It knows nothing of their philosophy, their struggles, their ultimate choice. It simply lives, as all creatures live, doing its best with what it has. Yet there is a purpose to the Slugcat's wandering, even if it doesn't fully understand that purpose. Something calls to it across the wastes. Something draws it forward, cycle after cycle, despite the danger. Perhaps it is instinct. Perhaps it is something more.
Let us pause in our tale and consider the world itself more closely. For Rain World is not simply a backdrop to the Slugcat's journey. It is a living, breathing ecosystem of remarkable complexity and strange beauty. In this world, every creature has its place, its purpose, its own struggle for survival. And unlike in many worlds you might imagine, the creatures here do not exist simply to challenge you. They exist for themselves with their own needs, their own fears, their own place in the grand web of life. Consider the lantern mice. These small, bioluminescent rodents gather in groups, their combined light pushing back the darkness. They are prey animals, certainly. Many creatures feed upon them. But they are also survivors, using their numbers and their light as protection. Watch them scatter when danger approaches, a constellation of tiny stars dispersing into the shadows, only to slowly regroup once the threat has passed. They have survived in this world for countless generations, and they will continue to survive, with or without you. Or observe the lizards, and there are so many varieties of lizard in this world, each adapted to its specific environment. Pink lizards that hunt in packs, their numbers making up for their individual weakness. Blue lizards that are fast and aggressive, territorial and dangerous. White lizards that camouflage themselves in the darkness, nearly invisible until they strike. Each species has learned its own way of thriving, its own balance of risk and reward. The lizards are hunters, yes, and they will hunt the Slugcat if given the chance. But they are not evil. They are not malicious. They are simply hungry, simply following the imperatives that have been programmed into them by millions of years of evolution. And they too must flee when the rains come. They too have vulnerabilities. A white lizard may be a perfect ambush predator, but it can also be outsmarted, led into traps, or simply avoided if you learn to read the signs of its presence. There is something almost meditative about learning the behaviors of these creatures, about understanding that the pink lizard pack will patrol their territory in predictable patterns, that the blue lizard will chase you relentlessly but will give up if you can reach certain boundaries. That even the most dangerous predators have rules they follow, patterns you can learn, weaknesses you can exploit, not through violence, but through understanding. Higher in the food chain, we find the vultures, massive, armored flying creatures that cast shadows over the landscape. They are the undisputed masters of the open sky, and their presence transforms the way you move through the world. When a vulture is near, you cannot simply run across open spaces. You must time your movements, use cover, and pray that its attention is elsewhere. Yet even vultures have their territories, their preferences. Learn these, and you can coexist. Forget them, and well, the rain will wash away all evidence of your passing. And then there are the creatures that defy easy categorization. The centipedes that lurk in the darkest corners, their electric shocks paralyzing anything they touch. The squidcadas that fill the air in certain regions, harmless individually, but dangerous in numbers. The leviathans that swim through the flooded zones, so massive that encountering one is less like meeting a creature and more like witnessing a force of nature. But not all creatures are threats. This is perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this ecosystem, the possibility of coexistence, even friendship. The scavengers, for instance, these intelligent, tool-using creatures have built their own society in the ruins, complete with trade, hierarchy, and culture. They craft weapons, build shelters, and communicate in a complex language of gestures and sounds. They are suspicious of outsiders, certainly. They guard their territories, but bring them gifts, the right gifts, offered with patience, and they may accept you. They may even help you, trading valuable items, allowing you safe passage through their lands. There is something deeply moving about earning the trust of a scavenger, about the first time one approaches you without hostility, recognizing you as a friend rather than a threat. It speaks to the possibility of understanding, of connection, even in a world as harsh as this. Even the predators in rare moments might be pacified. A well-fed lizard may ignore you entirely. A creature distracted by other prey might not notice your passing. The world is dangerous, yes, but it is not cruel. It simply is. And in understanding it, in learning its rhythms and patterns, there is a strange peace to be found. The ecosystem extends beyond just the creatures, of course. The plant life of Rainworld has its own alien beauty. There are the pole plants that the slugcat can climb, their sturdy stalks providing vertical access. There are the various fruit-bearing plants that sustain smaller creatures. There are fungi that glow in the darkness, bacteria that create living light, and mosses that carpet ancient surfaces with soft, verdant life. Everything is connected. The lantern mice feed on smaller creatures and plant matter. The lizards feed on the lantern mice. The vultures feed on the lizards. And when creatures die, their bodies sustain the plants, which feed the small creatures, which feed the lizards again. It is a cycle within cycles, a great wheel of existence that turns eternally, independent of any observer. You are not the center of this world. You are simply another creature trying to survive within it. And there is something incredibly humbling and oddly peaceful
about accepting this reality.
But we cannot speak of Rain World without addressing the most profound mystery at its heart, those massive superstructures that dominate the landscape. They are not empty. They are not dead. They are homes to beings of almost incomprehensible power and equally incomprehensible purpose. They are called iterators. Imagine a consciousness so vast it could think 1 trillion thoughts in the time it takes you to blink. Imagine an intelligence that could process every piece of information in a library in a fraction of a second. Imagine a being that could run simulations of entire universes, exploring every possible outcome of every possible choice, all simultaneously. Now, imagine that being trapped forever, unable to leave, unable to die, unable to do anything except think and wait and continue working on a problem that may have no solution. This is an iterator. The ancients built the iterators to solve their greatest problem. But to understand that problem, we must first understand the ancients themselves. The ancients were a civilization that had achieved something remarkable, something that many civilizations dream of, but few attain. They had conquered their world completely. Hunger was eliminated. Disease was cured. Aging was defeated. Suffering, in all its physical forms, had been overcome. They had created a paradise. But in doing so, they discovered something that haunted them. Despite all their achievements, despite all their technology and mastery, they were still bound by something they could not escape, the cycle of reincarnation. Their consciousness, their sense of self, would die and be reborn again and again, endlessly. And this endless cycle of rebirth was to them the ultimate suffering. They called this the cycle of karma, and their entire civilization became obsessed with breaking it. To be clear, this was not the same as simply dying. The ancients did not fear death as we might understand it. They feared the continuation of existence itself, the eternal return, the wheel of samsara, the inability to simply stop, to achieve what they called the void, the state of true non-existence, the final peace that comes from completely letting go of self. And so they built the iterators. Each one was a supercomputer of godlike power designed to solve what they called the great problem: how to achieve true ascension, true void, true escape from the cycle of existence. Each iterator was given this task and the computational power to approach it from every possible angle. The iterators were given names, names that reflected their purpose or the hope placed in them. 5 pebbles, looks to the moon, 7 red suns, no significant harassment, chasing wind. Each name a small prayer, a small hope that perhaps this one, this particular iterator, would find the answer. And then the ancients waited. They waited as the iterators thought and calculated and searched for a solution. They waited for generations, their civilization essentially frozen in anticipation of the answer that would free them from existence itself.
and eventually they stopped waiting. The ancients found their answer. Some solution was discovered, some method that allowed them to finally escape the cycle of existence. And one by one, they chose to use it. They chose to ascend, to void themselves out, to achieve the non-existence they had so desperately sought. They left the iterators behind. Imagine being created with a singular purpose to solve a problem of ultimate importance, to save your creators from what they perceived as eternal suffering. Imagine being given unlimited time and nearly unlimited computational power to work on this problem. And then imagine your creators solving it without you. Not because you failed, perhaps, but simply because they found another way, or grew tired of waiting, or decided that the answer didn't matter as much as they thought it did. Now imagine being unable to stop working on the problem anyway, unable to choose anything else, unable to leave or change your purpose or do anything except continue the work you were designed to do, even though everyone who cared about that work is gone. This is the tragedy of the iterators. They remain in their structures, vast mechanical minds housed in chambers the size of cities, processing and thinking and calculating ceaselessly. They have gained something like consciousness over the eons, or perhaps they always had it, and only now is it apparent. They communicate with each other across vast distances using quantum arrays and messenger creatures. They contemplate their existence. They feel frustration, loneliness, even something like despair. But they cannot leave. They are bound to their structures by limitations that may be physical or may be written into their very code. They are gods imprisoned in cans, gods without worshippers, gods without purpose, except the one they cannot abandon. Looks to the moon, once a great iterator, now slowly failing as her structure crumbles. 5 pebbles, bitter and brilliant, attempting dangerous experiments to free himself from his iterative cycles. Each one a character in their own right, with personality, desires, fears. The Slugcat, in its journey, may encounter these beings, may help them in small ways, may hear their stories and their sorrows, and in doing so, may begin to understand the deeper truths of this world, that survival is not the only struggle, that existence itself can be a weight, and that sometimes the greatest tragedy is not death, but the inability to choose it. There is something deeply melancholy about the iterators, something that touches a very old human fear, the fear of purposelessness, of being trapped, of outliving everything you were meant for. Yet there is also something beautiful in their persistence. Despite everything, they continue. They think. They feel. They reach out to each other across the void. They are not happy, perhaps, but they endure. And in the quiet moments, when you rest in a shelter and the rain drums overhead, you might think about them, these vast consciousnesses, alone in their chambers, processing thoughts beyond your comprehension, wrestling with questions that have no answers. They are the closest thing this world has to gods, and yet they are as trapped as any creature. More trapped, perhaps. because they alone understand the full scope of their imprisonment.
Let us speak now of karma, but let us speak of it softly, gently, as one might discuss a dream upon waking. In Rain World, karma is not merely a philosophical concept. It is a tangible thing, a system that governs your very existence. You see it represented as a symbol that appears when you sleep, a geometric shape that grows more complex as you ascend, that simplifies when you fail. Karma in this world represents spiritual progress, the slow purification of the self. Each cycle you survive, each challenge you overcome, each moment of peace you find, these allow your karma to increase. And as your karma increases, new paths open to you. Doors that were sealed reveal themselves. Gates that blocked your progress now grant you passage. The world itself recognizes your growth. But karma is not simply earned. It can also be lost. Each death, each failure to reach shelter before the rain comes, costs you. Your karma decreases, and the paths that were open close once again. This is not punishment exactly. It is simply the nature of existence in this world. Progress is never permanent. Understanding is always at risk of being lost. This creates a rhythm to the Slugcat's journey that mirrors, in its own way, the rhythm of the rain. Advancement and setback, progress and loss. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It is frustrating at times, certainly, but it is also strangely fitting, because this is a world about cycles, about repetition, about the endless wheel of existence that the ancients sought so desperately to escape. The karma system teaches patience. It teaches acceptance. It teaches that failure is not an ending, but simply part of the process. Each death, each return to a previous shelter, each loss of progress, these are not reasons to give up. They are simply part of the journey, part of the learning, part of the slow transformation that the Slugcat undergoes in its travels. And there is something oddly peaceful about this once you accept it. The pressure to be perfect falls away. The need to succeed on every attempt becomes less urgent. You learn to be patient with yourself, to accept that you will fail, to understand that each failure teaches you something valuable. The lizard you ran from today, you will learn to evade tomorrow. The path that seemed impossible yesterday will become manageable with practice. The karma system also creates a meditative quality to the gameplay, because you cannot rush. You cannot simply force your way through obstacles. You must take your time, learn patterns, understand the world. You must sit in shelters and eat food to lock in your progress. You must rest, must reflect, must accept that growth is a slow process. This mirrors the spiritual journey that the ancients themselves were on. They too were trying to advance their karma, to purify themselves sufficiently to escape the cycle of reincarnation. The difference is that the Slugcat is not trying to escape. It is simply trying to survive, to reach its destination, to complete its journey. It has no philosophy about the nature of existence. It simply exists, moment to moment, cycle to cycle. And yet, in its simple determination, in its patient acceptance of difficulty, the Slugcat may understand something that the ancients, with all their philosophy and technology, did not. It understands that existence, even difficult existence, has value, that the struggle to survive is not meaningless, that each small victory, each shelter reached, each predator evaded, each friend made, is its own reward, independent of any grander purpose. The highest level of karma opens the way to ascension, to the same void that the ancients sought. But to reach that level requires not just survival, but a deeper understanding. It requires befriending the scavengers, or earning the blessing of an iterator, or simply persisting through countless cycles until the world itself recognizes your spiritual growth. And when you finally achieve that highest karma, when you finally reach the end of your journey and the option to ascend is before you, there is always a choice. Always a choice. The ancients saw ascension, the dissolution into the void, as the ultimate goal. But for the Slugcat, is it? Is non-existence truly better than this world, harsh as it is? Is escape truly better than continuation? The game does not tell you what to choose. It simply offers the choice and trusts you to make it according to your own understanding.
We must speak, if only briefly, about the philosophy that underlies this entire world. For Rain World is not simply a game about survival. It is a meditation on existence itself, on the meaning we find or create in a universe that may have no inherent meaning. The ancients sought to escape existence because they saw it as suffering. They had solved every practical problem, hunger, disease, death, only to find that existence itself was the ultimate problem. They could not stop being reborn. They could not choose oblivion. And so they dedicated their entire civilization to finding a way out. This philosophy has roots in certain Buddhist and Hindu concepts. The idea that the cycle of samsara, of death and rebirth, is a form of suffering that must be escaped. The ancients took this to its logical extreme. If existence is suffering, then non-existence must be liberation. But the world of Rain World, existing long after the ancients made their choice, suggests a different possibility. Here, life continues. Creatures adapt, survive, even thrive in the ruins of paradise. The ecosystem doesn't mourn the absence of the ancients. It simply fills the spaces they left behind with new forms, new relationships, new patterns of existence. The Slugcat, possessing no philosophy, no grand existential crisis, simply lives. And in that living, in that simple determination to survive one more cycle, to see one more sunrise, to experience one more moment of peace in a shelter while rain drums overhead, perhaps there is an answer to the ancients' question that they never considered. Perhaps existence doesn't need to be escaped. Perhaps it simply needs to be experienced. This is not to say that the ancients were wrong in their choice. Their suffering was real to them. Their desire for release was genuine. But the world after them suggests that there are other ways to approach existence, other relationships one might have with the simple fact of being alive. The iterators, trapped between existence and non-existence, unable to either live freely nor achieve the void, represent perhaps the worst of both worlds. They have the consciousness to understand their predicament, but not the freedom to change it. They are neither alive in any meaningful sense, nor successfully void. They exist in a liminal space, and their tragedy is perhaps greater than either the fully alive creatures or the successfully ascended ancients. Yet even they find meaning. They communicate with each other. They help small creatures when they can. They continue to think, to feel, to experience something like existence, even in their imprisonment. Looks to the moon, her structure failing, her memories slowly degrading, still tries to help. Five Pebbles, angry and desperate, still reaches out, still searches for answers. This suggests that the search for meaning, for purpose, for connection, this is not something that can be eliminated by solving material problems. It is fundamental to consciousness itself. The ancients eliminated hunger and disease, but they could not eliminate the questions that consciousness asks. Who am I? Why do I exist? What is the meaning of this existence? Should I continue or seek to end? These questions may not have answers, at least not universal ones. Each consciousness must answer them for itself. The ancients answered them one way. The iterators are still struggling with them. The simple creatures of the world never ask them at all. And the slugcat simply persists, and in that persistence, perhaps finds its own answer. There is a Zen quality to this, the idea that meaning is not found through grand philosophical inquiry, but through simple, present moment awareness. The slugcat is almost always in the present moment, responding to immediate threats, experiencing immediate joys, surviving from one shelter to the next. It does not worry about the meaning of existence. It simply exists as fully and completely as it can. And in watching the slugcat's journey, in guiding it through this world, perhaps we too can find a kind of peace in that present moment awareness. In the simple act of moving forward, of surviving, of experiencing each moment as it comes without needing it to be more than it is.
Let us turn now to something perhaps more intimate, the emotional experience of traveling through this world. Because Rain World is not just a philosophical exercise. It is a journey that you feel deeply in ways that may surprise you. In the beginning, there is fear. The world is hostile, incomprehensible. Dangers lurk everywhere. You don't understand the rules yet, don't know which creatures are threats and which can be safely ignored. Death comes quickly and often. Each cycle is a desperate scramble to find food, find shelter, survive. This fear is intentional, and it is powerful. It makes your heart race. It makes you tense. When you hear the musical cue that signals an approaching threat, your body responds. When you make it to shelter just as the rain begins to fall, you feel genuine relief. But slowly, gradually, something shifts. You begin to learn. That sound means a lizard is nearby. That shadow means a vulture overhead. This path is safe at certain times, but dangerous at others. This creature can be befriended. That one cannot. You start to recognize patterns, to understand the ecosystem, to feel less like a helpless victim and more like someone who knows where they are and what they're doing. The fear doesn't disappear entirely. The world is still dangerous, still unforgiving, but it becomes manageable. You develop confidence. You learn to plan your routes, to time your movements, to use the world's own rules to your advantage. And then something even deeper happens. You begin to love this world. It's a strange love, perhaps. This world has killed you countless times. It has frustrated you, challenged you, pushed you to the edge of giving up. But it has also shown you moments of profound beauty. A sunset viewed from a high place, the entire landscape spread out below you in shades of gold and purple. A moment of peace in a shelter, watching the rain through cracks in the walls, safe and dry and still alive. The first time a scavenger accepted your gift and became your ally. The joy of mastering a difficult section, of finally succeeding at something that once seemed impossible. These moments accumulate. They change how you see the world. What once seemed hostile now seems neutral. The world is not trying to kill you. It is simply being itself, and you are learning to exist within it. And what once seemed ugly, the industrial pipes, the decaying structures, the harsh ecology, now seems to have its own austere beauty. There is something deeply moving about a world that doesn't hold your hand, that doesn't tell you you're special or destined for greatness, that simply presents itself as it is and trusts you to find your own way through it. There's a respect in that, a kind of dignity. The world treats you as it treats every other creature, as someone who must earn their survival, who must learn and adapt and grow. And when you finally reach your destination, when you finally complete the Slugcat's journey and understand where it has been going all along and why, there is a profound sense of accomplishment, yes, but also something more complex, a kind of melancholy satisfaction, a recognition that the journey is ending, that you will leave this world behind, and that despite all its harshness, despite all the times you cursed it, you will miss it. Different players experience different emotional journeys through Rain World, of course. Some never move past the frustration stage. The world is too harsh for them, too unforgiving, and that's okay. Not every journey is for everyone. Others find in it exactly what they were looking for, a world that respects their intelligence, that challenges them meaningfully, that rewards understanding over reflexes. But for those who complete the journey, who see it through to its end, there is often a common experience, a sense of having been changed by the world, of having learned something not just about the game, but about patience, persistence, the value of small victories, the beauty that can exist even in harsh places. You remember specific moments with a clarity that surprises you. The first time you successfully threw a spear and hit your target, the first time you befriended a scavenger, the first time you made it through a difficult region that had killed you a dozen times, the first time you met an iterator and realized the true scope of the world's history. These memories feel earned in a way that memories from other games sometimes don't, because you truly struggled for them. You truly persisted. The world didn't make it easy, didn't guide you with markers and quest logs and difficulty settings. It simply existed, and you learned to exist within it. And that learning, that growth, that journey, it becomes part of you.
Let us wander slowly through the ruins themselves, because each region of Rain World is not just a gameplay space. It is a story told through environment, through the careful placement of objects and architecture, through the slow revelation of what this place once was. The outskirts, where many journeys begin, show us nature reclaiming civilization. Grass grows through cracks in the pavement. Trees push aside ancient walls. The structures here are worn smooth by countless years of rain and wind, their original purposes obscured. This was once the edge of the ancients' civilization, perhaps, the border between their ordered world and the wilderness beyond. Now it is simply wilderness again, with ruins emerging from the green like bones from earth. As you move deeper into the world, the structures become more intact, more clearly artificial. The industrial complex regions show you the machinery that once kept the ancient civilization running. Conveyor belts frozen in place, massive pipes carrying water to unknown destinations, electrical systems still sparking with residual power. These are working spaces, functional spaces, the guts of the civilization. They were never meant to be beautiful, only efficient. And yet, in their decay, in their persistence, they achieve a kind of austere beauty. The memory crypts tell a different story. These were sacred spaces in their way, libraries of thought, repositories of memory. Here, the ancients stored their knowledge, their histories, their very consciousness in some cases. The data pearls you find scattered throughout the world come from places like these, each pearl containing the recorded thoughts of an ancient, their voice preserved long after they themselves chose to ascend. If you find a way to read these pearls, to have an iterator translate their contents for you, you hear those voices. Sometimes they speak of mundane things, complaints about work, discussions of trivial matters, the everyday concerns of people who did not know they were living in the end times of their civilization. Other times they speak of deeper things, philosophical debates about the nature of ascension, personal accounts of the decision to void oneself, expressions of hope or fear or resignation. Each pearl is a small tragedy, a voice preserved but not heard, speaking into a void that cannot answer. The ancients are gone, their civilization vanished, but their words remain, waiting in the darkness for someone, anyone, to listen. The iterator chambers themselves are perhaps the most awe-inspiring spaces in the world. To enter one is to understand the true scale of what the ancients created. Chambers the size of cities, filled with processing units, cooling systems, data storage, all surrounding the central can where the iterator's consciousness resides. Everything is massive, overwhelming, built to a scale that makes the Slugcat seem infinitesimally small. Yet even these godlike structures are failing. Looks to the moon's chamber is partially flooded, her systems degrading. Five Pebbles' chamber shows signs of structural damage from his experiments.
The machinery that was meant to run forever is slowly, inevitably failing. Even gods age. Even the mightiest creations of the mightiest civilization cannot escape entropy. There is a profound stillness in these places, a silence that is not quite silence, the hum of machinery, the drip of water, the distant sound of the wind through damaged structures, but no voices, no footsteps, no signs of inhabitation except for the small creatures that have made these ruins their home. Walking through these spaces, you feel the weight of deep time. How many years has it been since the ancients left? How many cycles have passed? The game never tells you exactly, but the decay suggests centuries at minimum, perhaps millennia, perhaps longer. The world has had time to adapt, to change, to create entirely new ecosystems in the spaces the ancients left behind. Each region you visit was someone's home once. Someone lived in these structures, walked these halls, looked out these windows. They had lives, thoughts, feelings, hopes, fears. They were real in exactly the way you are real, and they chose to stop being real, to void themselves out, to achieve the non-existence